I'm divorcing you because you are no longer in charge. Get out of here.
My husband suddenly thrust the divorce papers at me, and I accepted them stunned. Please give me some time to think about it, I said, and my husband left the room, giving me until the next day to think about it. And when I checked the divorce papers, there was something written on the back. And the moment I saw it, I immediately called the police. I am Hannah, a 55-year-old housewife. My husband Cooper is 57, and we have been married for 35 years. I lost my uterus due to illness a few years into our marriage. And at one point, there was talk of divorce.
Sure, I wanted kids, but I married you to start a family. So let's not get divorced and live together.
When I was almost heartbroken over not being able to have children, Cooper supported me by saying that. Cooper is the third son. His father was the president of a small business, and when his father died, his oldest son took over. Since the time when Cooper joined my parents-in-law's company at the request of my brother-in-law, Cooper's behavior changed little by little from the time he was kind to me. About a year after he joined the company, he started coming later, about close to midnight, saying that he had to work overtime. He also started leaving the house on his day off because he had to work on his days off. He began to avoid talking to me, and his facial expression was not as cheerful as it used to be. No matter how many times I asked him about this, he would say, It's nothing to talk about with you. I also grew increasingly distrustful to Cooper's attitude, and I tried to several times to talk to him about it. But he refused to talk to me for some reason. There was no doubt that something had happened, either between his family or at the company. Did my mother-in-law say something to him? I gradually began to think so. This has to do with the fact that there is a big gap between me and my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was very harsh on me for not being able to have children.
Why did you marry Cooper if you aren't even have children?
If you can't even have children,
get a divorce soon.
You are an eyesore. These words were said to me every time we saw each other, and when Cooper heard about it, he was furious.
The next time you say something like that, I'm going to cut you off from this family.
Cooper was so furious that he declared to his mother that he was going to cut ties with her. So we came to an agreement that I was not to have anything to do with my in-laws. I have since grown apart from my in-laws, but I still can't completely cut ties with them for reasons such as socializing with relatives. On those occasions, I only greeted and talked with my mother-in-law at the bare minimum, and try not to show my mother-in-law that I was avoiding her. However, my mother-in-law talked about me behind my back to my relatives. Some of the people who took advantage of my mother-in-law's stories made small comments about me and blatantly avoided me.
Hannah, you never had a baby, but you took advantage of Cooper's kindness and told him not to have anything to do with his mother. How can you so brazen in your position as his wife?
I am sorry that I cannot have children, but as for his involvement with his mother, Cooper told me that I didn't have to get involved. With all due respect, I think that digging up an issue that was resolved between the two parties when you don't know anything about, it will cause unnecessary misunderstandings and make the relationship more complicated. The relative who had been on my mother-in-law's side, apparently not expecting me to talk back, was stunned by my words and attitude and immediately became angry.
I'm just trying to give you advice on how to get along with your relatives.
Did my mother-in-law really call me a useless, childless woman?
Yes, she did.
And she's not wrong.
You can't do your job as a wife. And you can't respect your relatives and your superiors. Why did Cooper marry an insane woman like you?
Who knows? Oh, by the way, Cooper said that if his mother continues to say things about how I am useless and can't have children, then he's going to cut tie with her once and for all. What will his mother do if that were to happen? Will you tell Cooper about this? Would you take responsibility? When I brought up the subject of Cooper's and his mother's installations, the relative women, who apparently didn't know what was going on, was at a loss for words and then apologized in a small voice.
I'm sorry. I guess I interfered too much out of consideration for Cooper's mother. I don't want to cause trouble. So can we just forget this ever happened?
With that, she quickly left. I wondered whether I should tell Cooper, but I didn't and only told my mother-in-law in secret. I see that you still have some thoughts about me not having children. I just heard from a relative. Should I have another thorough discussion with Cooper as well? At my words, my mother-in-law turned blue and refused to discuss it.
I'm sorry. I guess my words came across a little crooked. I am sad for you and your family that you choose not to have children, but I don't want to criticize you for it.
My mother-in-law quickly apologized, so her son didn't cut ties with her. We decided to keep this matter to ourselves. For the next few decades, we enjoyed our life together, even though we never had children. One day, after all those days, Cooper says to me,
My brother asked me if I wanted to join his company. I told him no, that I was too old to change jobs. But he insisted. And it doesn't sound like the company is going to downhill or anything. What do you think I should do?
He asked me. In fact, I am now a full-time housewife, but during my working years I have seen various companies in financial trouble as a management consultant. So I immediately checked the situation of his family's company. But it certainly did not seem to be in financial trouble. When I told him this, Cooper later decided to work as a board member of the company that his eldest brother had attached to him after hearing more details from his other brother. The reason for this solicitation was simply that the company was short of staff, and the employees who held the position had retired due to illness, and the company was looking for someone who could do the job descriptions of the position. After a year had passed, Cooper's behavior began to change. He started coming home late at night, and his attitude towards me became cold. There was a lot of discord, but then Cooper told me,
The housekeeper who had worked at my parents' house quit because of a sudden illness. You have some extra time on your hands. So, could you work as a housekeeper at my parents' house until we find a new housekeeper?
I was surprised at the suddenness of the offer. When I asked for more details, I found out that she was not a housekeeper, but rather a caretaker for his older brother who lived at home. I found out that her main job was to take care of the grandchild, who were in the care of my parents-in-law's family. The eldest brother and his wife were in the middle of divorce proceedings, so they were taking care of the grandchild. The granddaughter was a 12-year-old girl named Samantha, and while she was at school, the caretaker cleaned the house and cooked food. After Cooper told me more about Samantha, I decided to take the job. Samantha seems to have a hard time with adults, and at first she was very shy around me. However, after 6 months, Samantha began to talk to me about her problems and events at school, and I was able to hear many other things from her. I asked Cooper's brother if I could take care of Samantha at home, so that I could spend more time with her.
You were going to kidnap Samantha because you couldn't have children yourself. And if you won't clean the house and do the chores, then you are not a good housekeeper. So I'm going to stop employing you."
And from my mother-in-law, who heard this,
"Now you want a child? You made Cooper give up on having kids. And you think you can talk like this? Besides, Samantha is a girl. And if you take her in, she'll soon be married off and wasting Cooper's money. I won't allow you to do that."
and refused my request.
I didn't even say I would take her in. But my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law jumped the gun on me for not having children. Perhaps my mother-in-law's thinking was that since Samantha is a girl and cannot be the heir, she didn't want to include her in my parents-in-law's finances. She probably wants her mother to take over Samantha after her father and his wife get divorced. On top of that, my mother-in-law said this to Samantha: "You are going to go to your mother's side and live in poverty, so don't get used to living at home. You are the only one who will be of no use to our family."
Samantha was quite bitter toward her grandmother because of this. I was so disgusted by this idea that I couldn't say anything, at least while I was visiting my in-laws. I tried to make Samantha's favorite food and try not to have contact with my mother-in-law as much as possible, so that Samantha could be as cheerful as possible. After a year had passed, I went to my parents-in-law's house to talk to Cooper. Cooper was waiting for me, sandwiched between his eldest brother and his mother.
"My brother's divorce is final. That means you are no longer of any use to me. So I'm divorcing you. Get the hell out of my house."
I was stunned when Cooper confronted me with the filled out divorce papers and said, "Please give me some time to think about it." I managed to squeeze out a few words and went home. When I checked the divorce papers, I found a message from Cooper written on the back. When I saw it, I immediately called the police. A few days later, I moved to a new house and was living on my own. I was summoned to my parents-in-law's house by a call from Cooper. There, my mother-in-law, her older son, and Cooper were waiting for me with grim faces.
"Oh my God, what have you done to us? You took away Samantha's father, uncle, and grandmother. And then you forced us to pay child support."
I stole Samantha's father from her? Did her father even treat her like a daughter? In the first place, by grandmother, are you talking about yourself? How can you say such a thing when you spoke to her in such a horrible way? How dare you?
I was thinking of Samantha.
My mother-in-law blamed me for my behavior from the very beginning. I was actually in the middle of the divorce settlement, and I had given my brother-in-law's wife a recording of their outburst and how badly they treated Samantha at my parents-in-law's house. I had given her as many recordings as I could. The custody would safely pass to the mother's side, and everyone would scold severely for this.
Do you really think you can do this to your husband's family and get away with it?
I don't care because we already divorced. When I said that, Cooper, who had been silent until then, opened his mouth.
"My family? This isn't my family. From now on, I'm a stranger to you guys." "What are you talking about? What do you mean?"
Cooper's brother, as well as his mother's eyes, were blank because of what Cooper had said. We had to explain them what had happened so far. In fact, this time it was an operation to accuse my parents-in-law of tax evasion, which included Cooper's other brother. Although Cooper's other brother was loved by his father, he was hated by his eldest brother, and after the death of their father, he was forced to take a mediocre position and his salary was drastically reduced. This brother had his own company and was looking for an opportunity to quit. But the company that his eldest brother succeeded to had a lot of unclear settlements and expenses, and the eldest brother's salary was greatly reduced. He suspected that their brother was evading taxes, and he consulted with Cooper. In this process, he found out that his mother and eldest brother had treated Samantha so badly. Samantha's mother wanted to secure custody. However, my mother-in-law and her eldest son were trying to get custody of Samantha. Since there was a difference of opinion between my mother-in-law and her eldest son, my mother-in-law tried to get rid of Samantha somehow. My mother-in-law had said those words to Samantha many times. I recorded those words as much as possible and documented the child-rearing environment. I was gathering evidence so that Samantha's mother could get custody of her. In addition to the injustice of the in-laws, the reason Cooper was acting strangely was because of the environment in which Samantha was placed. He was also angry at the attitude of his mother. He wanted to do something to save Samantha, but was unable to do anything about it. He thought about asking me for advice, but I had been blamed for not having children in the past. So he was hesitant about whether he should ask me to take care of the child or ask his sister-in-law and her family. Cooper told me about all of this when his in-law's housekeeper quit. I immediately agreed to help him with his plan and took action. And on the back of the divorce papers he wrote, "I'm ready to go and want you to call the authorities." When I explained all this, his eldest brother changed color and started yelling.
So you guys reported us? What are you going to do about the company? We're going to go bankrupt at this rate. Oh, don't worry. Our brother is going to buy it. Besides, we have excellent consultants to help us rebuild the company in the future. Don't worry about anything, brother. Go and atone your sins. Thank you very much for all your hard work and tax evasion and fraud. Cooper said smilingly and made a phone call somewhere. Well, that's it then. You're dismissed now. I'd appreciate if you would sell this house to pay off the debt, he said, and then several men came into the room with Cooper's other brother. The man who came in with his brother was a policeman, and he said that his eldest brother and mother, who were involved in tax evasion, might try to the country. So they were arrested on the spot and taken away. As they were being taken away, I couldn't help but laugh at my mother-in-law, who swore at me to no end. Even if I can't have children, I will do everything in my power to prevent the company from going bankrupt. And I'm really relieved that I don't have to worry about being disrespected about not having kids. Thank you so much for being my role model. When I said that, my mother-in-law quickly became silent and left the room. Cooper was then adopted by my parents and became part of our family. Cooper and I started working at my ex-sister-in-law's family's company, which was bought out by his other brother in order to rebuild the company. We have been busy dealing with the fraud and unpaid wages that my mother-in-law and her eldest son had been hoarding up until now. However, the second son, who originally started his own company and has outstanding management skills, has been working hard to restore the company's performance. I have been out of the field for a long time, but I am now working hard to restore the company's performance. My mother-in-law and her eldest son were sentenced to heavier sentences than usual because of the high amount of tax evasion they had committed. Of course, my former parents-in-law's house was sold, and their property was disinherited, leaving them penniless and with no place to return to. It will be a while before they find out about it. Through my lawyer, I received several letters from my mother-in-law addressed to me. Some said, You are a traitor, a pestilence who destroyed our home. Another said, For the love of my relatives, I need your help. I forgive you for not being able to have children, didn't I? At first, I found it interesting and read it. But then I got tired of it. Gradually, I became bored and refused to receive them. I keep in touch with Samantha from time to time. It's been a while since this fiasco, and I've been trying to help her and her mom get her life back on track. Samantha's mother contacted me to thank me for taking care of her almost exclusively.
Hannah, because of you, you saved Samantha's life. Samantha has been asking about you since then, saying you were the only one who was nice to her. If you don't mind, would you play with Samantha again?
I started to cry involuntarily at those words, and also to Samantha, who was on the phone before I knew it.
I want to eat your food again. So will you cook it for me next time?
I cried so hard when she called out to me. Cooper, who was nearby, saw this and at first wondered what was going on. However, when he heard Samantha's enthusiastic voice coming out of the receiver, she pointed at me and started laughing hysterically. We made an appointment to meet and hung up the phone. And since our new house was only a 15-minute drive from Samantha's and her family's new house, we began to see each other frequently. I'm busy with work right now, but when things settle down, I'll be able to meet more with Samantha and her family. I think I'll invite Samantha and her mother to a trip to Disneyland. By the way, before Cooper was adopted to my parents, he told me about his previous curt attitude and the delay in consulting with me. He apologized many times for making me feel uncomfortable when he brought me face to face with his mother. I wasn't mad at him or anything, and now we can have a happy life. I am looking forward to watching Samantha grow up close to me, even though she is not a child of my own.